محمد اللهم صل على محمد inshallah we can begin with a salawat with energy. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. As is customary within our community and with our brotherhood and sisterhood that we're creating, inshallah, we pray for those who are ill through the lines of the Quran. Inshallah, you can join us all together. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم والعن عادهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. 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 يا الله يا الله يا الله بحق زين العابدين سيد الساجدين مريض كربلاء. اللهم مشفي كل مريض يا الله. وصل يا ربي على محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. Inshallah, in honor of all of our loved ones and all of the shuhada and all of the ulama who are no longer with us, the Surah Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين المظلومين. وصلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان. اللهم صل على Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You've made it to session 4, which is 3 more than others, 2 more than others, and 1 more than others. And inshallah, Allah is rewarding you for your effort to try and find Him. And that has been our journey in these last 3 weeks, and inshallah we continue today in trying to establish the very foundations of our faith through a very simplistic way. And we come back to that very basic example that if I try and balance my tea on this tablet, it's likely to fall because the foundations are weak. Similarly, if the foundations of my faith are weak, one comment from an atheist, one comment from a Shia even, from a different mindset, from a different approach, could really shake me, and all of a sudden I could find myself going in a completely different direction. Just to reiterate, all of this is coming from the content of His Eminence, Ayatollah Nasir Makam al-Shirazi, one of our great scholars in Qom, and we pray for all of our ulama and all of our maraj, may Allah grant them tawfiq and rizq to continue in their way, inshallah. So any value is attributed to him, of course to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any mistakes are on my shoulders, and I ask you for your forgiveness, and please mention them to me so I can go by and alleviate them, inshallah. So what have we got up to? In the last 3 sessions, we've established the following. Number 1, it's normal for all of us to want to search and to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's very normal, it's within us. Secondly, we then said it's valuable for us to act upon these thoughts. We get loads of thoughts in life. We get loads of feelings in life. Some we're taught to act upon. Some we're taught to suppress. In this case, these thoughts and these feelings, we have that help us think, is this an Allah? Is this a being? Is this someone I want to give thanks to? We then established that yes, it's valuable for us to think of these and to ponder over these and to embrace these feelings. And then we said, okay, if it's valuable, then we should go and try and find God. We should go on that mission to actually go and find Him then, if we now realize it's valuable and it's within us. And last week we said there are two ways to go and find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, broadly speaking. The first was the way from within. And we said this was a shorter way to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe even something, and we said 99%, maybe even 100% of us in this room have had these moments. The question is, did we find Allah in that moment? And we won't recap that for now, but hopefully for those of you who remember, you'll recall why we discussed that. It's timeless. It's in every type of person we establish. It doesn't matter if you're that person X that we described who has no education or no cultural background or no religious background. It happens to every single one of us. And we even established in Quran that Fir'aun, even at one point, gets this feeling and recognizes that there is something greater than him that he actually relies on, despite having done everything that he did. And today, inshallah, we begin a journey to find Allah through the external means. So rather than from within, from, and the book says without, but I think it's just a really bad translation, unfortunately. So how do we find Allah? Through external means, through this new lens. It's a longer way to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It requires a lot more contemplation, a lot more thinking, a lot more analysis, a lot more thought. Fundamentally, it requires the use of the aql. Now remember, and we've mentioned this before, the difference between the beast and the human is that the beast has no aql and the human does. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Do you not even reflect? Do you reflect? We need to use this thing. And that's inshallah what we're going to try and continue to engage so we can increase and graduate our understanding and our ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is an unlimited journey. So we're going to try and look at this world and see how do we find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within it. Looking at what's in front of us, and we'll use examples that you and I have all seen, have even touched, have embraced. Any type of examples, you'll start to see where we go. So, step back and think in the 5, 10, 50, 20, 50, 100 years that you've lived. We're going to put on a new set of glasses today. We're going to look through a new set of lenses. And you know sometimes when you've just gone to the optometrist and they give you a new prescription, for those of you who have 20/20 vision, MashaAllah, may Allah keep it for you, right? I'm very, very sorry about my son last week, by the way, just to mention. I know he was running around a little bit. But poor kid, I've got like pretty bad eyesight and my wife is blind, hence why she married me. And fundamentally, Hussain's going to be finished with his eyesight. I'm very worried for him, right? So for those who have 20/20 vision, may Allah bless you. For those of us who struggle, we know that feeling when you come out of the optometrist and they've said, you know, your prescription's gone up by 1 or 2. And you put on those new glasses and you feel a little bit wobbly for those, you know, when you're trying to adjust. In the same way, when we put on these new lenses that we're going to see this world within, it may make us feel a little bit wobbly. We'll start to see different things. It's not what we've been used to for the last 20, 30, 50 years that we've been living. But that's okay, embrace it, because maybe we'll find something beautiful. And actually, it's the lens we use every day. But again, we're just not looking through it. It's not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, once you go to the optometrist, then he'll give you this lens, then you'll be able to find me. No, we were born with this very lens. We just don't realize that we should look through it. We've been blind this whole time. But my eyes have been open, yeah, but we've been spiritually blind this whole time. And we'll look at the world, and when we reflect on the world, we realize, you know what? Chaos isn't actually everywhere. You're probably thinking, hold on, politically, chaos in the Middle East, it's everywhere. Forget the Middle East. Here in Western Europe, it's a mess. So let's just put politics aside, because that's us as man doing what we do best, corrupting people and whatever. But when we look at the world, it's not actually in chaos. Forget the people, just the way the world is. The fact that we can sit in a building and this building isn't falling in on us, that doesn't just happen by chance, right? Everything is in sync. The night follows the day follows the night, every single day of the year. The orbit of the Earth continues as normal. The solar system interact with each other as normal. The galaxies, normal. There's always, if Allah gives us the rizq and tawfiq, another breath of oxygen that we can take. It's not like someone pumping it into the room, it's just always there. The bees are flying around and they're producing honey. Doesn't stop. The trees are still emitting carbon dioxide or taking in carbon dioxide. It's pretty good. Everything is just kind of working. When you remove Donald Trump and Boris and all of our dear friends, we're doing, like, the world is okay. It's in a good place, you know. Every 30 days, the moon, we see it in a different way and it comes back. like, the world is actually functioning. When you step back, it's working. And it's like this universe is working in a certain way, that it's marching towards a certain goal. Like, everything is going in a certain direction. Animal kingdom continues, you get the point, right? The world is actually in order when we think about it. So now we've established that, let's try and analyze how this has become the case. So how is it that this world has just got this rhythm and it keeps on going for the last however many thousands of years that you believe when it started, different discussion. How is it that it's just continued to be the case? The sun has always been there, it's always produced this heat. We're going to look at 3 different ways of thinking about this, and again, it's just going to help refine the different lens. It's like when they say 1 or 2, red or green, is the dot bigger with this one, or is it sharper with this one? Similar thing. We're going to give some examples. It's just going to train this lens in your eye, so that you start to see things and recognize, like, oh yeah, I do see that now, I didn't see that before. Oh, it's better with this lens, and better. So keep that in mind. We'll start with any organism and creation that's within this world. And you can think of anything. Trees, plants, soil, and whatever. But let's say, for example, a tree. A tree, in order to come into existence, doesn't just appear from nowhere. Of course it could, kun fayakun, it absolutely could, but a tree, when we see it, doesn't just come from nowhere. What does it require? It needs proper soil, the right temperature, the right heat, maybe some watering. I don't know, I'm awful at science. But it needs a load of things to make sure it can grow in a sustainable way. Otherwise, no sunlight, no water, no soil, no tree. So every single creation needs certain things in order to achieve its goal, in order to grow. And the creation of these conditions, of the fact that this tree or this flower needs sunlight and whatever, comes from somewhere. Someone made those rules. Something made these rules. How can I prove that? If I were to take that tissue and I had to place it there, it's not just going to grow into something miraculously, right? There's something in the property of the tissue, if it was to be the case, and with certain elements, something would happen. So there is someone who's created these rules or this order of, you could call it science, to function. It's not just happened from nowhere, because otherwise it could just happen randomly. It doesn't. It necessitates some sort of wisdom and some sort of knowledge. Let's look at a second example. Any of these creations that we then talk about have very specific features that are bespoke to it. Let's take water and fire as examples, right? They have unique traits that are very pertinent to their very being, and they're polar opposite in this case. And those traits follow very specific laws. No matter what year you look at, fire, tens of thousands of years ago, if you put enough water on it and suffocated it from enough oxygen, would extinguish. Fire, 10,000, 100,000 years ago till today, if you put your hand on it, it's going to hurt. Unless, dargan wa salam, of course, kun fayakun. But in essence, you put your hand in it, it's going to burn. That same rule persists till today, does it not? The same with water. It has these qualities that you put your hand in water, your hand will get wet, or said object will get wet. And if you heat it up to a certain level, 100 degrees, if it's pure, it will evaporate. The same rules apply. So these rules have come from somewhere. They've not just miraculously happened from nothing. There must be an infinite, or I'm not going to say infinite for now, there's going to be some sort of intelligent thinker, designer, creator, if you like. And even if you look at our organs, so we'll try another version. Let's look at our organs. And it can be the organs of any single organism that you can think of. Somehow, it all works perfectly and harmoniously together. No issues. And if something threatens the body, each organ tries to do its own thing to try and prevent said attack from coming. How did that happen? How did the heart find a way to support the kidney, and the kidney found a way to support the liver, and the liver found a way to support the brain, and so on and so on and so on? Again, all of these organs, or organs of humans, or any organisms, they obey some sort of rules. They have some sort of characteristics. They have something about them that have been true since Adam to Khatam. So what? These are all observations right now, right? We've just been saying red or green, now I want to know the prescription. Am I blind? Poor Hussain. Or am I okay? 20/20 vision. But when we realize these things, one conclusion we could assert is that all of these things are the signs of order that exist in the universe. If someone were to come in here and they see everyone quiet, there is a level of order happening. That's been established somehow. It's not just happened from nowhere. There are some etiquettes, there are some organizers, there's a building that holds the structure. There's some order that is happening. In the same way, when you look at the world, there is some order happening. The sun eventually disappears at the moment around 4 o'clock because there is order in the world. But in summer, 9:30, 9:40. There's a plan on how things work and why they were made this way and not that way. So who's come up with it? So can you see, just by putting on a different set of glasses, we're now seeing the world slightly differently. We're not seeing people dying. I'm not saying obviously we stop seeing that, but I'm saying for the moment, we don't see people dying, we don't see people suffering, we don't see Boris, we don't see Donald Trump, we don't see all these muppets. We see Allah's creation. And actually beyond that, we see the intelligence, or, again, I need to stop saying it's Allah's, but you get the point, inshallah, we will kind of get the point where we're going to, right? But we see this order in the universe, that something has been created and it works perfectly, it's genius. And now I start to appreciate every little thing. You know, when a child, and I remember this vividly as a kid, I have no idea why, you'd be walking home from school and you'd pick leaves from the bush. I don't know if that was just me, right? But sometimes you pick leaves from the bush. And if you were like, you know, a little bit contemplative, so if I was on a good day, usually one in every 5 years, I'd like crumble this leaf. I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool, you know? There's like these veins in this thing. And that's me done for science, right? But you start to recognize this order that exists. And that it will stay in your finger, and then your science teacher says, oh, that's green chlorophyll. Have I just made that up? That is what it is, right? Yeah. Okay, good. And you start to realize there's actually stuff going on here, and you get a bit of moisture. Oh, there's water in this leaf as well. What's going on? But only because for a moment, Instagram didn't distract you, and you actually thought about something for a moment. Now, how many times have we just gone by the world and just been distracted rather than أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ? Do you not even reflect? And we'll see some of the ayahs in the Quran that come up. So, we've said lots of stuff happening in the world. Clearly there must be some kind of order, right? There's a lot happening, and if you go more and more and more and as science expands, there's definitely something going on, right? There's some genius plan that someone's worked out. So all of these are signs that order exists in the universe. There is a plan, why they were made this way, so on and so forth. And just to show the other side of it, and sometimes you see this when philosophers try and prove theories, they either work from a nothing basis or they work from the conclusion backwards to show that you can reach, that you can go both ways, and similar to mathematics, right? But let's now say, okay, we're now in here and we're sat on the floor. Just imagine, just to show how much we need to appreciate this order and how everything works. Just imagine if in 3 seconds gravity were to disappear. That's chaos. That's not order. Imagine something as subtle, and it's not even subtle, it's the most significant thing probably around us in the atmosphere, right? If gravity were to change even just a tiny bit, that's it, this building's gone, our organs are flattened, everything's finished. Or even, you know, when they say when you're flying in the plane and if someone opens the door, you just get sucked out. There's order, one slight change, you're gone. So just, it lets you appreciate just how subtle these things are that someone has created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. You're like, wow, actually I'm starting to see this world, and I'm starting to see Allah's manifestations and creations absolutely everywhere. I don't understand because Allah is so infinite in His wisdom, so I'm never going to appreciate the complexity of this, but I'm starting to appreciate at least what the value it brings to us, even just in a tiny bit, let alone how it was created. So the question now that comes forward is, we see order, we've established order, and I've struggled to avoid saying the next bit, but I've alluded to it. We see this order. Is there any link between this order and wisdom? Or is it completely by chance? Because that's basically what the atheism versus theism argument is, right? We believe there is an all-wise creator that did not create out of lust, it did it with absolute reason and perfect reason. And the atheists kind of believe, well no, it was nature just kind of having a laugh, basically. I don't know, something just happened and whatever, we are where we are, take it and move on with life. That's kind of the difference of the argument to some extent. So we need to establish, given that we now see this order through this new set of glasses that Allah has given us, has that got any correlation with wisdom? Or are we just completely making this link up? If we prove that link, then we need to find whoever this wise person was. If we can't prove this link, then order has just come from nowhere. Does that make sense? Yeah. Inshallah, if so, offer salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Cool. So, we want to establish, does this order have any link to wisdom? Let's use some different examples to see how it makes us think. Google, we're all familiar with it. Great business, depending on how you see it. Very powerful, probably listening to our conversation right now without our permission, but hey, that's how powerful they've become. Google somehow, in 30 years, has become one of the biggest businesses in the world, right? One of the biggest market caps in the world. So many different devices, so many different services, and it all started from a Google search. Crazy, right? This entire Google enterprise, I'm going to suggest to you, was completely by chance. Completely by chance. There was no plan. They just happened to make a search. They just happened to make phones. They just happened to make servers. They just happened to then monetize AdWords. They just happened to have an email account that then every single marketing person buys a slot in your email inbox. It just happened, just by chance. Is there any logical person on this planet that could defend that the creation of Google was by chance? Absolutely not. Why? Because we're not dumb. We're humans. Our brain thinks, and it goes, so much genius has gone into creating this massive, massive entity, this dominant entity, for you to try and fool me that this has been created by chance. You're having a laugh, mate. We wouldn't even entertain the discussion. We'd probably ridicule the person as stupid, frankly, right? Just usher them out of the room. They're not even thinking. Imagine then you've got the original founders of Google. They'd be like, actually, it wasn't by chance. We worked kind of hard on it, and it is where it is now. The other thousands of employees across the world would be like, actually, we're behind it. That's us. Yeah. It wouldn't make sense for any logical person to see this order that Google has created and to just say it happened by chance. Let's take the example of a plane. A plane in midair, and I'm fascinated by planes, by the way. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to this. Right? I always wanted to be a pilot, and back to my vision issue, obviously I couldn't become a pilot because of that. Anyway, that's why I live in Heathrow. So you'll always find me looking up at the planes around here, which is why I quite enjoy the sound. But anyway, I'm getting a bit too much now. So, planes. How fascinating. You have a steel, or whatever, metal tube going through the air at 35,000 feet consistently, at 500 and something miles per hour or knots, depending if you're interested in that. It managed to hold its altitude, and you can serve and run a business in it. That's mental. Can you imagine saying, in like Prophet Adam's time, and he probably had some great wisdom, but like to the average man who was in and around him, to be like, there's going to be metal shoes that you can buy, where you can sell there. They'd be like, okay, good luck, right? You jump on first. Look at the order of the plane. It takes off, it travels for 3, 5, 15, 18 hours even, to Australia, from London to Australia, non-stop, no issues, and that. And you can have a meal in the middle of it. That's some order that's been created, right? If you open that door, chaos. No, the door is shut, it's sealed in a certain way, it's been crafted in such an intricate way that you can have steak whilst flying 500 miles per hour. Incredible. It happened by chance, actually. It was just a random set of metal objects, they just came together. Some air hostess and air host came in, the steak just landed in there, and somehow it ended up from London to Islamabad. I have no idea how, it just happened. Saying that, PIA doesn't really reach its destination half the time, right? Yeah. Can you imagine? No one would, like, you can't engage with a human that believes that the creation of a plane was completely by chance. All this order, listen to it, all this order that is created, just happened. You wouldn't entertain that discussion. It's not possible. Why? Because any logical person recognizes that any sort of order in the world, they realize it implies some level of wisdom that's gone behind it, some level of thought, some level of planning. The Google CEO, Sundar, the Indian chap, he's smart. He's got an idea, he's got a strategy. He coordinates his people to make sure they can achieve more market dominance. The Wright brothers, when they first created the plane, it wasn't just for jokes. They were figuring out, they were physicians. They were like, okay, how's this all going to work? And now Airbus and now Boeing, constantly pushing the boundaries. Look at military planes, constantly pushing the boundaries. These guys are planning, they're thinking, and they're creating. And we sit back, we see that plane in the air, we see the CN Tower, or we see the Shard, or whatever, and we're like, fair play to the people who created it. That Shard building did not just erect itself in London, somehow. Fair play to the architects that created it. Man naturally looks, when it sees something incredible, for a source of knowledge behind it, for the entity that's behind it, be it people or a single person. When we recognize that some kind of order and law prevails to make this structure stand, or to make this organization successful. We don't even need to arrive at this conclusion through some mathematical proof. It's again just innate within us that we appreciate creations and we credit the creator of that creation. So whenever we see an organized system, we know there must be some level of intelligence and wisdom behind it. So you can see where I'm going to go with this, right? Gravity, just by chance. That tree that we discussed, just by chance. That solar system, just by chance. The tide coming in and out, matching the moon, just by chance. Do you see how simple the argument is in our heads? It's not like Allah has created this in a way that it's impossible for the average person to understand. It's so basic. So basic. And just on a side note, what does it do when you appreciate what, for example, the Wright brothers did? Or let's say, for example, let's take a more modern day example. If you were to meet Jeff Bezos, the creator of Amazon, and whilst I'm not going to say whether he's a good man or whatever man, let's just say you were to meet him, you'd say to him, fair play, right? You've done a decent job there, man. Yes, you may have killed the high streets, but you've got a decent business. Respect. When you find the creator of something great, you show some level of gratitude and appreciation. So once we find the creator of this entire entity, you need to show some gratitude and appreciation. And when you realize that that creator created you, you need to just submit and be like, you can do whatever you want with me. The creator of the plane knows if I open that door, this whole aircraft's going. The creator of me knows if he does one thing to my body, I'm done. So I submit to this being's power. Because this is the ultimate, and as we said last week, principal cause of everything. The principal creator of everything. So we submit out of reverence, out of just how sublime this greatness, the greatness of this creator is. Now, maybe some people will come forward and say, actually, I want you to prove this to me statistically. And this happens in philosophical discussions. You'll see people write kind of qualitative approaches and also quantitative approaches. So for those of you who are a bit more mathsy, let's just take a very simple statistical example. It's very, very, very simple. It's, to be honest, more qualitative than anything. But let's say the argument then comes, but you know what? It's still all just down to chance. Let's, at least for the moment, entertain this argument. Even though we've proven it otherwise, let's just entertain the argument. Okay, you assert that this is all by chance. This entire creation is all by chance. Let's try and understand what the statistical significance is here, what the chances, what the probability of all of this coming together is. In order to do that, I'm going to take a very simple example, and then we can extrapolate it to the entire creation of the universe, okay? Which is obviously going to be much more than what I'm about to explain. So what is this small thing? Let's say you find an illiterate man, someone who can't read, someone who can't write. And you say to him, okay, come here, I'm going to give you a pen and paper, write me a 300-page novel. Forget that. Write me one page about your life. He picks up the pen, He can't read or write. So what does he start to do? Probably just draw lines, put pen to paper. Literally like how my son draws on paper, like just draws, right? Doesn't know what he's doing. What's the chance of him actually constructing a letter? Very, very, very low. Maybe 1 in 10,000 if you're lucky, that he manages to carve something that looks like a letter. What's the chance that the second letter he writes is directly next to it, and the third letter that's directly next to it actually make up a word? Well, you could say 1 over 10,000 times a 1 over 10,000 times a 1 over 10,000. You're an actress, you should be able to do this in your head for fun, right? Now that's one word. You've got to take whatever that is, let's call it 1 over 1,000,000. And let's say there's 1,000 words on a page? 1 over 1,000,000 to the power of 1,000. Go on. Go on. Something crazy. What's the probability? It's crazy, right? And all we're asking for is the probability of an illiterate man to write a page. You'd tell me, nonsense, that's not going to happen. It can't just happen it's not going to happen by chance. It's just not going to happen. There's a chance, but it's just not going to happen. Statistically, it will be so insignificant on the curve, it's just not going to happen. That's just one guy writing a page. What about the entire universe? I agree. You could argue that there is still a statistical chance that it could happen. But no statistician would say that there is any statistical significance in that. No statistician. You'd be tending towards 0, and arguably you probably couldn't even draw the line such that it wouldn't touch how close it gets to. So even from a probability perspective, it's just not going to happen. So we can prove this from a qualitative perspective. We can prove it from a very simplistic, quantitative perspective as well, and I'm sure there's many other ways to do it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so clear in the Quran. It's beautiful when these kind of things, with these fresh glasses, we now see the Quran and we see different things coming at us, and we understand these lines differently. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Fussilat, Surah 41, verse 53. Note this one down. Surah Fussilat 41, 53. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sanurihim ayatina fil afaq wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. We will soon show them our signs in the universe and in their own souls until it will become quite clear that this is the truth. At some point it's going to become clear to you that this is the truth. From the signs in the universe, we've discussed those, the solar system, etc., to even from within yourself. You can make the argument, oh, back in the day they couldn't see beyond the sun, right? Okay, look at your heart, look at your kidney, look at whatever. It's in you as well. أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِ بِرَبِّكَ أَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. But is it not sufficient concerning your Lord that He is over all things a witness? Do you not just see that He's behind all of this? What more do you want? You're going to wait for the illiterate man to try and write that page to prove that there's a chance he could do it? Or you're just going to accept and submit and say, you know what, Allah, you've bamboozled me, and therefore I submit to you. You've just smashed it. Jeff Bezos, if he comes in, we submit to him. How many of us have got Amazon Prime? Just a quick hands up. Yeah, okay, we've all submitted, right? There we go. Probably get more in Amazon Prime than Qums, who knows, right? Can you imagine, to someone like that, we're like, you're a genius. But to the creator of the universe, you haven't even met Jeff Bezos. For all you know, the picture on Google isn't even him. Like that cryptocurrency guy. No one actually knows who he is, but we all believe in crypto. You can't even see the creator of crypto. The creator of the world, I can't see him, therefore I'm not going to believe that there was a creator. Come on. We will soon show them the signs in the universe and within yourself until it will become quite clear to them that it is haqq, that it is truth. And is it not sufficient concerning your Lord that He is over all things a witness? A shaheed. And just to finish on a few side examples. Let's just take, for example, the human brain, right? Fascinating. Neurosurgeons and whatever, like, it's incredible what this, like, frankly, if you just saw a brain on the floor and you weren't trained in science, you just think it's a bit of goo, at best. Honestly, right? It looks weird. Yet if just one single tiny part of your brain gets affected, your entire memory can go. Entire memory. And subhanAllah, we have people walking in our families with Alzheimer's, and may Allah help them, such a tough disease. They're a sign for us to recognize, look, this brain that once was able to calculate so many things, and remember so many faces, and remember all of these ad'iyahs and the surahs from the Quran, overnight, khalas, finished. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And in your own souls too, you will then not see. How many times you're just like, come on guys, wake up. Why can't you see this? And there's another example that the book then talks about with regards to the bat. For example, how a bat, in order to see in the darkness, doesn't use eyes. It uses its sound and its ears and the way it's created to navigate itself. It then goes on to talk about, for example, the bee, and how the bee regularly every single time comes to pollinate, creates honey, and that's just been going on for so long. And it goes into so many different examples, one after another. You can imagine you can do this for every single thing that you see in this creation. If you just let this new set of glasses see things in a new way, then inshallah you'll see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness start to manifest itself to you. And in reaction, the same way if Jeff Bezos were to come in, you'd be like, hey, how are you? You've done such a great job. Forget him. You now see the creator of all of this, and you bow in prostration to him and say, you're great. You're the best. You're the smartest. You're the wisest. You're the everything. But the Ahlul Bayt have already told us what words we should use. The Quran tells us what words we should use. Allahu Akbar. It's not greater than anything because it's incomparable. It's Allahu Akbar. Don't ask, if anyone asks you how do you define Allah, don't give them an answer, it's Allahu Akbar, because otherwise you'll do it a disservice. So inshallah from this session what we've been able to understand is that we can find the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through these new set of glasses. And honestly, just let yourself take time when you're on the train, when you're in the car, just to reflect on some of these creations that Allah has given. To appreciate the magnificence that's gone into this creation. And also to bow your head almost in regret that through all this time you've just been abusing these creations and never ever thanking. I always go back to food, right? If you had the best Sindhi biryani from Taste of Lahore, you would say thank you to the chef. You would, right? Now you're judging me because that's a Taste of Lahore. Sorry, it's good though. You would say thank you to the chef. Remember we spoke about the sense of gratitude? Once you appreciate the intricate nature of whatever it is you see on your commute, or tomorrow all the way home, go and say thank you. Show the appreciation, submit, and register Allahu Akbar. I'm nothing without you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hopefully with that we've probably not found Allah yet, but we're on the way to finding Allah. We now have the tools, and may Allah allow us to get closer to Him. قربة إلى الله تعالى. And we end with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'm assuming no time for questions, right? So whenever we take one. Are you sure?
Yeah, good.
Does anyone have any reflections, any questions? One of the brothers asked something last week and it gave a really interesting discussion about the principal tools. Any reflections or any questions, any clarification anyone would like on what we've just discussed? I'll only do my best to answer, and if I can't, I'll come back with an answer, inshallah.
Wonderfully explained.
Oh, Ahsant. That's from Ayatul Nasr, it's not from me. So like I said, he's the man to thank, he's the man to pray for. Inshallah, that's all good. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you very much, Brother Sadiq, for another informative session. Inshallah, now we'll have Ahmed Raza reciting Ziyarat al-Warsa, followed by Dua Faraj. Salawat.
زيارة الورثة الجانب से अपना वालिदैन के जन्म से अपना अहलिया के जन्म से जिंदगी जन्म से